Hi guys, welcome to another Unity tutorial. Today we are going to expand our checkpoint system. If you haven't seen the previous tutorial about the checkpoint, now is the time. For today, as someone suggested, we are going to save the last checkpoint, so when we exit and re-enter the game, our player will continue from the last checkpoint. What I've got here is a simple rollable game, and we want to include some checkpoints. To get started, first we create an empty game object which is gonna be the parent of our checkpoints and reset the transform. Now for a checkpoint, I'm using a simple flag. You can download the flag for free from the asset store. I will put a link down to the description. Now you can add as many checkpoints as you want into your game. For this example, 2 flags are enough. Remember to set the checkpoint object tag as a checkpoint. Now drag and drop the checkpoint flag under our empty game object and then duplicate the checkpoint. Now the fun part begins. Please ignore the rest of the code, you don't have to worry about it. First, we need a reference to our parent object that contains all the checkpoints, and also an array of game objects to store all of our checkpoints. Now we need a function to respawn our player and change the player position. We set the position to be equal with starting point, which is gonna be a vector3 variable. Also, we must set the player's velocity and angular velocity equal to 0 to stop our player from moving. We will call this function when our player falls off the ground, and to detect that, we simply check inside the update function the player's y-axis if it's less than -10. Now we need a function to load and initialize our checkpoints. First, we need to initialize our array and set the size. For that, we use our checkpoint parent object to get the child count, which is equal to the amount of our checkpoints. Then we will loop through all of the checkpoints and add each one in the array. This function we will call it from our awake function. Now in our onTriggerEnter function, we must detect when we go through a checkpoint and save which checkpoint our player has went through. First, we check if the object that we went through it has the tag checkpoint that we set earlier. Now we must loop through our array and find if the checkpoint exists in our array. If it does, then we will extract the index inside the array and save it by using player prefs. If you are not familiar with player prefs, an easy explanation is that player prefs is Unity's easy way to save local data, and data can be strings, floats, and integers. In our example, we will use it to store an integer number, which will represent the index of the checkpoints. We need a key as a reference to the value that we want to save. The key, it can be anything of type string, but every key is unique. I prefer to create each key as a constant string variable in order to avoid any grammar mistakes. Player prefs usually takes 2 parameters. First is the key and second is the value that we want to save. Here we will use the key that we just created, and for value we will use the checkpoint index. And also we must set the starting point vector to be equal with the position of the checkpoint and deactivate the checkpoint object. Last thing we must do is when we come back to the game, check which was the last checkpoint and set it as our current checkpoint. In our start function, we need to retrieve our saved value from player prefs using our key and a default value of -1. The default value is used when the game tries to create the player prefs key for the first time and sets a default value. Now we will use that value as an index into our array, and we will get a checkpoint from the array, which is gonna be our new starting point, and then we will call our respawn function to spawn our player in the right position. If we don't find any checkpoint, the starting point will be the current position of our player, which is the default. Now back in Unity, remember to assign our checkpoint parent object on the script, which is attached to the player object, and we are ready to test it. As you can see, all checkpoints were added in the array automatically. Now if I fall off the ground, I will respawn back from where I started. But when I grab the checkpoint and fall over, I will respawn back where that checkpoint was. And if I exit the game and come back, I will spawn from the last checkpoint. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you do enjoy it, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to get notified for the upcoming tutorials. And if you have any suggestion for a tutorial, please tell me in the comments below.